Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Cher. Come on in, come on in. You know, when I was 10 years old, I lived about 40 miles north of New York City. And that summer, a group of us, we packed into this church van and we drove 45 minutes east, across the border into Connecticut to the ballpark at Harbor Yard. And this minor league baseball stadium holds about 5,000 people. And we're there to root on the home team, the Bridgeport Bluefish, brand new team. So we get there, it's this beautiful summer day. We're eating popcorn and hot dogs, and I'm drinking soda because mom's not around. We're having a blast. By the time the 7th inning rolls around, the Bluefish are losing. They're down a few runs, and they need a rally to turn this game around. So just then, in big bold letters on the Jumbotron, it says, "Do the wave." And I am like, yes, we're going to do the wave. So I'm there like looking to see who's going to start it, and nobody's moving. So I jump out of my seat and I run down the front of my section and I'm like, all right, everybody, we're going to start the wave on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Nobody moves. Y'all are pretty good. I'm like, come on, we're doing the wave. We're doing the wave. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. 6 people stand up. I'm like, come on, we got to do this. We got to do this. We're doing the wave. Let's start with this group right here. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. 20 people stand up. Y'all are really good. And I'm getting pumped because I know if I can get 20 people to stand up, maybe I can get this whole place to stand up. So I'm running back and forth and I'm like, it's coming to you. So get ready. The wave is coming and y'all got to get ready too. So I go back to the front of my section. I'm like, all right, we're doing the wave on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And everybody in my section stands up. Everybody in the next section stands up. And I'm watching this wave go all the way around the stadium. And I am like, yes. I still, to this day, have no idea if the Bluefish won the game that day. But I saw 5,000 strangers working together to create a moment bigger than themselves. Now I need a moment because I'm out of breath. And I titled this keynote today, Make Moments Matter. But actually, I believe that every moment already matters. The question we need to be asking is, are we being intentional enough with the moments that we have to make the most of them, to make them mean something? Now, most of you spent the day here yesterday. A lot of you will be here all day today, connecting, learning, networking, certainly earning your credits. I see you have sessions on things that I don't understand, like hemodynamics and renal rescue and crisis readiness and psychopharmacology. But my job here this morning is different. Lucky for all of you, I'm not here to teach you about pharmacology. I think you would lose credits if that were the case. I'm here to remind you why being a pharmacist, why being a technician matters. Clinical excellence, yeah, that will change patient outcomes, but it's the human moments that shape our experiences. You're going to leave here a better pharmacist, a better technician, but you're also going to leave here more intentional about the moments that you have and the experiences that you create with the people around you. Because guess what? Before any of you are pharmacists or technicians or students or directors, before you are any of your titles or the letters next to your name, you are humans. Humans with a lot of wisdom, by the way, and I know this because I spent some time getting to know some of you in the conference app before I got here. That's right. Like Andrew Haynes from Sebring, Florida. Andrew, are you in the room this morning? Where is Andrew? Not here, but some people know Andrew. But that's good. We can let him know. Andrew says to show kindness and be the light you want in the world. Love that. What about Diane Jones? Is Diane here? Uh-oh, taking roll call. Diane says, and I love this, she says, don't focus on how many breaths you take, but the moments that take your breath away. What about Gloria? Gloria Kelly? Are you here? Woo! Yes, we've got one. Thank you. So Gloria, this is beautiful. She says, leave more than you take and give more than you get. And I think the world would be a much better place if we all followed those rules. We could go on, but there's just one more that stood out to me. Daniel Buffington, are you here? There you are. Yeah. I knew I could count on Daniel because Daniel says, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you're forgotten. So for those of you sneaking in late in the back, Daniel said it, not me. Okay, you got to take it up with Daniel. So I love this. There's already so much we are learning about each other. There's so much wisdom here, kindness, generosity, diversity. The expertise in this room is clearly impressive, but so is the humanity. So learn from the experts on this stage, but don't forget to learn from each other, to connect with each other, to celebrate each other. Because if there's anything that a 10-year-old kid who started the wave at a stadium learned, it's that while you may control less than you'd like, you influence a lot more than you realize. And it's often the small moments and the small actions that can become big stories in somebody else's life. So I'm going to ask that you hold on to that premise as we spend our time together today, and as you move through this conference the rest of the day today and tomorrow. And I was asked to share some objectives for the session, which are to help you identify the everyday interactions that can create ripple effects on your teams to build trust and connection, to understand the barriers that get in the way of us doing that with each other, and the kinds of behaviors that we can put into place to make sure that we're building that trust and connection and belonging and celebrating each other as well. And this idea that you control less than you like, but you influence more than you realize is the essence of what I call ripple effect leadership. Excuse me with the slides. And ripple effect leadership is a new lens that helps you see and understand your influence more clearly and how to use it with intention. Because every moment, every conversation, every interaction sends a ripple into somebody else's life. And that's why my work is all about helping people identify what I call ripple effect moments, to create ripple effect moments, to scale ripple effect moments, and to turn those moments into opportunities to shift the culture on your teams and across your health systems. And we need this kind of leadership right now, today, in our workplaces, but also in our world. Because as we know, trust is low, uncertainty is high, and we're living through an era of distraction and human disconnection. We're so consumed by what we're doing and the pressures of the work that it's become harder to actually see and value and connect with the people that we're doing the work with. And the cost of that is showing up every day in our relationships, on our teams, in our meetings, and in the conversations that need to happen but never do. And this is what I call invisible friction. It's the quiet cost of human disconnection. Because you can't really see it, but we all feel it. You know those moments when you keep getting interrupted in meetings, so you stop speaking up, and now we've completely lost your perspective and you've probably disengaged. Or those moments, maybe there's power dynamics with physicians or administrative leadership and people are nodding in agreement, but nobody's actually in alignment. So now there's this really unproductive undercurrent taking place on the team and in the department. Or maybe you have to have that difficult conversation with someone, but you're avoiding it because you're human and it's going to be uncomfortable. But that issue just becomes worse and worse and worse. And over time, this accumulates. And while it does, it erodes trust and it makes the work harder than it needs to be. It changes the way people experience not just each other, but how they experience the work itself. Bless you. And I had an experience with this when I was the head of people and culture at a 200-person company. This was about 8 years ago. And there was an employee that we had, we'll call her Victoria. Now, Victoria was really good at her job. She'd been at the company for about 12 years. She was in her mid-50s. She's one of the best analysts that we have on the team. However, She has developed into what we might call the Debbie Downer in the office. You know, she comes into meetings and she's like, I don't know about that. Are you sure you want to do that? I've been through this before and it didn't work the last time. So I keep hearing this buzz and chatter about Victoria, and I'm like, I see people laughing because they know that person in their office. I'm the head of people. Let me talk to her and see what I can find out. So I sit down with Victoria and I say, hey, Victoria, how's it going? And she said, well, when I first started here, people used to seek out my opinion, but now nobody cares what I think. And then she went on and she said, I have ideas. I've got a lot of ideas, but nobody's paying any attention to me. I said, well, that's got to be really frustrating. She says, yeah, Chris, and you know what? I don't think this company really values older workers. And I'm thinking, we don't? So I said, well, tell me what that's like. And she said, well, nobody invites me to the important meetings. All the exciting projects go to younger hires. There's no opportunities for me to advance, and nobody's talking to me about my growth. And I said, well, what does growth look like to you? What do you want? And she just goes, I don't know. I said, well, that's a great place for us to start. Let's talk about it. I didn't solve everything for Victoria that day, but she left that conversation feeling seen and heard for the first time in a long time. But it was too late. Had I had that conversation with her 6 months prior, had her supervisor had that conversation with her 6 months prior, she may still be working at that company. Instead, she left and now she's working somewhere else. And here's where I think we can all relate. Victoria didn't wake up one day and say, you know what? I'm going to leave this company today. That decision was shaped by hundreds of small moments over time. Moments when she doesn't feel safe, didn't feel seen, didn't feel heard, didn't feel like people were curious enough to really understand what she might be carrying. And that's how invisible friction works. Now, Victoria worked in the corporate context, but the same thing happens in our hospitals and our health systems. We see it all the time. In fact, right now, somewhere in your health system, and maybe it's also you, like there is somebody who doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel seen, doesn't feel heard, is carrying something that nobody else realizes. That's invisible friction. Now, you and I haven't spent that much time together, and I'm willing to bet there's a lot of people around you also haven't met yet. And because we're humans, we all carry assumptions and create stories in our head about the people around us. What are they thinking? What are they not thinking? Should I engage? Are they nice? Are they not nice? That's also invisible friction. The good news is invisible friction doesn't have to stay invisible. We can do something about it. And the fastest way to reduce invisible friction is through intentional human connection. And my favorite way to do this is through a prompt that I love. And this prompt is great because it really invites us to see and listen to other people. And the prompt is, if you really knew me, you would know that blank, and you fill in the blank. So if you really knew me, you would know that I am happiest when I'm in bed by 9 p.m. Like my Aura ring is texting me at 7:30, time to wind down for the night. If you really knew me, you'd know that complaining is one of my biggest pet peeves. If you really knew me, you'd know that one of my toxic traits is treating my 8-year-old like he's still a baby. I can't help it. Anyone else have kids? I mean, my 8-year-old is a dog, but it's like, I just can't help it. I'm not mad about it. He's just a baby. And if you really knew me, you'd know that I'm wondering how many of you are wondering, oh gosh, do I really have to do this exercise? And the answer is yes, we're going to do this exercise. So in a moment, I'm going to ask that you just turn to the person next to you, or you can get into groups of 3. And each person's going to have a minute to answer this prompt. And throughout that minute, you're just going to share whatever you feel called to share. Could be things about your hobbies, your interests, your family, what you like to do on the weekends, your pet peeves, the fact that you don't want to do this exercise, like anything, like whatever you feel called to share. Now, the person in your group who woke up earliest this morning, they will go first. That's right. They've had the time to get ready. And they will also be the timekeeper. So just make sure, just set a timer, look at the clock for 1 minute, and then you can share just for the whole minute. It's not just one thing, it's keep going until the minute's up, and then you go to the next person, and then the next person. And my only ask is this: if you're anything like me, you're gonna spend everybody else's minute thinking about what you're gonna say. Because you're like, ooh, what am I gonna say? I gotta say something good and funny. Just trust yourself that you're gonna say the right things at the right time. There's no pressure or judgments or expectations. Practice helping someone else feel seen and heard, and practice making this moment matter for them. So let's take 3-4 minutes. We'll do this with the people around you, and then we'll come back together as a group. Let's get after it. I'd love to hear from people what that experience was like for you. What observations, what do you notice about that exercise? What would you like to share? Yeah, right here. Perfect.
I thought the exercise was really fun. I got to meet someone new.
Okay.
I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Megan Patel. I'm a pharmacy student at the University of South Florida.
Woo.
One thing I learned about Alyssa that she loves to work out 5 days a week. She doesn't let school, get her off her schedule. And that used to be me. I used to work out every single day, but with rotations, it's just been super hard, so I don't do that anymore. So it's kind of like looking at your younger self.
Okay, little motivation. Love it, thank you. Any other observations? What was that experience like for you? What did you notice? Thank you, Jason.
So automatically, we three had a bond because we work in the pharmacy field. But so is that.
Big shocker there.
We don't look alike, right? But we have some similarities that are human common bonds, and it's mostly around family. So we have a very strong affinity to our children, and they mean a lot to our lives. And so that's another thing that's universal. Doesn't matter what you do, what you look like, how much money you make. That's something that we all have in common.
Beautiful. Love that, Cher. Thank you so much. How many of you learned something new about the people in your group? Presumably most of you, because a lot of you don't know each other, right? How many of you feel more connected to the people in your group? Yeah. And how many of you feel like the dial was moved at least a little bit in terms of the level of trust that you feel with the people in your group? And that took 2, 3, 4 minutes. So you're welcome to use this. This is a great tool in meetings, wherever you find it appropriate to create some connection with people in your teams and in your lives. And I want to talk about why what we just did is so important. There's a company called Quantum Connections, and last year they put out a new survey, a study, where they surveyed 12,000 employees across 49 different industries in the US. And they're creating this measure that they call the Net Connected Score, which is a measure of how well connected employees are inside companies. And the central question in their survey was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how seen and heard do you feel by your direct supervisor? And here's what they found. They found that when people feel seen and heard, they're 55% more likely to share new ideas. They're 44% more likely to admit mistakes without fear. And they're 39% more likely to take calculated risks. So maybe think about the impact of what that would mean for you and your teams and your departments. Now, I imagine most of you are not thinking about the profitability of your health systems every single day. But if you are curious about the impact on the organizational level, what they found is that companies where employees felt seen and heard, what they describe as connected companies, they're 38.7% more profitable than companies where people don't feel seen and heard. So this is not soft, fluffy stuff. This is a real business imperative. And the researchers wanted to understand, What are the drivers of connection? What do we have to create in order for people to feel seen and heard? And what they found was that number one, they have to feel safe, safe to speak up, safe to share their ideas, safe to engage. They need to feel appreciated and acknowledged for the work that they do. And they need to feel empowered to do the job, have the resources, have the time, have the encouragement to get it done. Now, the survey was looking at relationships between supervisors and their employees, but really, I think this is the opportunity that we have every day with each other in the small moments, with our patients, with our colleagues, with our families. And what I have personally found in my 15 plus years of working with organizations, studying leadership and managing my own teams, is that trust is the byproduct of human-centered leadership. And human-centered leadership is the byproduct of what I call ripple effect thinking. So let's talk about ripple effects. I want you to imagine that you're standing at the edge of a small pond, and you've got a pebble in your hand, and you toss that pebble into the pond. And you watch as there's a splash and those ripples move outward. We all know what this looks like. So what do we need in order to create a ripple effect? There's three things that we need. We need a catalyst, something to start it. So in this case, like you tossing the pebble. You need an environment, somewhere for that ripple effect to take place. So this pond example, but for us right here, this is an environment. This conference is an environment, your team, your health system, all environments. And third, you need a disturbance. And the disturbance is what creates the transfer of energy. Because as you know, that's all a ripple effect is. It's energy being transferred through water molecules that just bob up and down. The water doesn't move, the energy does. And because, in my view, we are all leaders in this room, here's what I want each of you to remember. Leadership is not just about how present you are in the moment. It's about how permanent the energy you create in that moment becomes. I'll say that again. Leadership isn't just about how present you are in the moment. It's about how permanent the energy you create in that moment becomes. So from this point forward, my invitation to all of you is to think about yourselves as the catalyst. You're the catalyst causing the disturbance. You are the pebble. Everywhere you go, you're causing ripples. Every conversation, every interaction is causing a ripple. Every time you precept a student, every time you review orders with a physician, every time you give feedback to a colleague, everything you say and everything you don't say is causing ripples, and we need to get present to the impact that those ripples are having on other people. So we're going to stop talking about ripple effects and we're going to create one. And who knows how we're going to do that? We're going to do the wave this time. Like you were really good. Like this is a really good audience. Like you pretty much made it happen before, but now we've had some practice and we are actually going to do the wave. Maybe for the first time in FSHP history, I'm not really sure, but we're going to give it a go. So what do we need in order to start a ripple effect? A catalyst. And I'm looking at yes, that's right. I'm looking at you over here. What are your names? Krista. Jesse. She's like, Krista. Krista and Jesse and my crew right here. So if you are able, on the count of 3, we're going to send the wave across this room. Okay, so maybe if you need to put some stuff on the floor, whatever you need to get ready to do the wave. Okay, that's right. All right, my catalysts, you ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Beautiful. Yes, that was quick. Very good. Spontaneous applause. Now, you got to always send it back. You got to send it back. So 1, 2, 3. That's right. Woo. Yes. Beautiful. Amazing. Give yourselves another round of applause. So actually, I'm going to come back down here. I want to hear from you again. Every time I do this, I ask the audience, what are some lessons that we can learn from this story that I shared earlier and this experience of doing the wave together? When you think about leadership and teamwork and culture and connection, what are some observations? Yeah, right here.
That one person can make a big difference in the lives of many people.
Very, very well said. Thank you, Raquel. What else? Coming back here. Yes. If you wouldn't mind just passing this mic down to my friend over here.
I feel like with the way you break down barriers and you become more comfortable with people around you, so enhancing trust.
Breaking down barriers, enhancing trust. Very well said. Okay, I'm going to come over here.
I was just going to say, sometimes it takes a few tries to get it to work. If you keep putting in the effort, it doesn't happen just on the first try.
Very, very well said. Persistence, keep going, even if you don't get it the first try. Thank you for those observations. And something that I also find fascinating, take my picture of breath, didn't get my cardio in today, is that they've done studies on waves, like at stadiums, they've studied this, and they found that in a stadium with 100,000 people, all it takes is 20 people to start the wave. So if we do some math, this is my version of like making this make sense. If we have a stadium with 5,000 people, or a department with 5,000 people, an event with 5,000 people, then all it takes is one. One person that can completely shift the culture or the momentum in an organization or in a space. Now, when you start to think about yourselves as the catalyst, that person can be you. The problem is we don't think that way naturally, right? We get busy, distracted, consumed by our own responsibilities that over time we slip into what I call a siloed mindset, where you're so focused on your priorities, pressures, perspectives, that we're not thinking about the ripple effects we're creating on other people. But if you want to build trust and connection and alignment with the people in your lives and on your teams, you have to shift the way you think from a siloed mindset to a ripple effect mindset. A ripple effect mindset is seeing yourself and others through the lens of influence. It's having a keen awareness that your words, your actions, your decisions, the energy that you bring has far-reaching consequences beyond what is immediately apparent. So let's look at some examples together. These are choice points that we have in every moment and how we show up. Some behaviors that we can practice to make this shift. In a siloed mindset, we make assumptions, but in a ripple effect mindset, we seek the truth. In a siloed mindset, we tackle the presenting problem, but in a ripple effect mindset, we explore the root cause. In a siloed mindset, we're quick to jump to conclusions, but in a ripple effect mindset, we take the time, create a little space, and reserve judgment. In a siloed mindset, we're so focused on what's wrong. What are your weaknesses and the limitations? But in a ripple effect mindset, we are so committed to seeing people's potential. In a siloed mindset, we're so dialed into what I call WIIFM radio. What's in it for me? And you've got to change the channel to WIIFU, which just doesn't land. It just doesn't land the same, does it? It doesn't land the same. What's in it for us? What's in it for us? Yeah, I know. So let's just look at this for an example. Like, what is happening if in different pockets of your team or your health system where this is happening over and over again at scale? That's what causes invisible friction. It makes collaboration and connection really, really hard. So how do we make this shift? How do we go from siloed thinking to ripple effect thinking? Well, whether you are leading a department, a student just starting their career, collaborating across disciplines with other folks, rounding on patients, whatever the case may be, there are 5 qualities that you can practice in every moment: vulnerability, kindness, curiosity, empathy, and humility. Now, these are things that we all know, but I use the word practice on purpose because these are easy to talk about, but they take a high level of awareness and commitment and intention to lead with them. And they're available to you in every moment. And when I lead workshops with groups of teams, whether it's in hospitality, healthcare, retail, doesn't matter, I always have participants write down a list of all the people they can possibly think of who've created a ripple effect in their life. Parents, teachers, mentors, coaches. And every time what we find is that the ripple effect moments that people recall are because someone else displayed one or some combination of these qualities. And there was a workshop I was leading with a group of 25 senior leaders at a pharmaceutical company in Philadelphia. Everybody writes their list, and then we always debrief our list, like, what are we noticing? And Margot raises her hand and she says, you know, Chris, there's a lot of people on my list who don't know they're on my list. In other words, they don't know the impact that they've had on my life. And everybody started nodding. The same was true for them. And maybe that's true for you too. I mean, most of us don't know that we are part of someone else's story. So I started an experiment. I pulled out index cards and I had them write down a note to one person on their list, letting them know the impact that they had on their life. Now, I have done this enough times to know that on the whole, we don't do a very good job of this, of letting other people know the impact that they've had on us, especially as time has passed. But I want you to flip this around and think about it from where you sit and the people that you're influencing every day. Because at the end of the day, we're all in the business of impacting other people, whether it's patients, colleagues, family, friends. And if you're anything like me, there are those hard days when you question and you wonder and you say, did today matter? Like, did I make a difference? Am I having the impact that I want to be having, that I took this job to be having? And the truth is, we will never fully know. We will never fully know the extent of the impact that we create on other people. How can we possibly know how far our ripple effects go? We can't. So I had them write those index cards, they sent out those notes, and what started as an experiment that day has turned into a movement. And I'm going to talk about that in a second, but those days when you are questioning whether your work, your contributions, when you're feeling the weight of burnout and you're asking yourself, does this matter? It does. So keep showing up, creating small, intentional ripples every day, because that is where your legacy lives. Your legacy lives in the impact that you may never see, but somebody else will never forget. So what started as an experiment that day has now turned into the Start a Ripple movement. And it's a movement to shine a light on other people's significance, to let them know that their legacy is already living in your life. What a gift that is. And I'm inviting all of you to join that movement. And what a great way to celebrate this year's theme, Sparkle, Shine, and Celebrate. Since the summer of 2024, we've sent over 5,000 postcards to people in almost every single state, 10 different countries, and we're just getting started. Each of these postcards delivered is proof that the ordinary moments can become extraordinary stories in somebody else's life. So there's a postcard on your seat, and up until now, we've been talking a lot about your influence. But now I'm inviting you to help someone else recognize theirs. There is someone on your list who deserves to know that they're on your list. We're on a mission to send 1 million postcards, and we certainly could use your help. It's really simple. There's a prompt already teed up for you on the postcard, and it says, I just wanted to let you know You created a ripple effect in my life when you ... and you just fill in the blank. Maybe it's someone who gave you an opportunity before you felt ready for it. Maybe it's someone who was just with you and supported you during a really difficult time. Maybe it's someone who believed in you before you believed enough in yourself. Whatever the case may be, take a moment, write that person a postcard. Now, it is 2026 and we don't use the mail all that often, and maybe you don't know their address. So my invitation is to stalk them online if you don't have their address. And if you can't find their address, trust me, just send them a quick text and say, hey, can I get your address real quick? They will be delighted when they receive this in the mail. Now, at the next break, when we're done writing the postcards and the session's over, in the next session, there are baskets outside on tables where you can drop your postcards. My team will collect them, we will stamp them, we'll put them in the mail on your behalf, and we will turn this event and this conference into its own ripple effect moment. So take a few minutes now to write your postcard, and then we're going to come back and keep it going. So you all just took a moment to write your postcards, and I want to close out here by sharing with you the postcard that I would write today. Last November 2nd, my oldest brother, Markham, participated in the New York City Marathon. And so I'm there pressed up against this metal barrier on the east side of 62nd and 1st Avenue in Manhattan. I've got a balloon in one hand and a sign in the other. And there's a group of us, about 30 people huddled together, watching thousands of runners push past mile 16. And I've been tracking Markham's location on the app for the last couple hours so I can see when he comes around the bend to cheer him on. So I'm leaning over the railing, I'm trying to see him in the crowd, and then there he is, powering up 1st Avenue 3 years after his colon cancer diagnosis, after 42 rounds of chemo, 2 major surgeries, and countless other procedures. He stops, we're given high fives and hugs, everybody is crying. 7 hours and 30 minutes after starting that race, Markham walks across the finish line. I asked him, I said, Markham, did you ever want to quit? He said, oh yeah, all the time. But he just kept going, one foot in front of the other, making every moment matter. 6 months later, this past May, we lost Markham. But Markham had a ripple effect mindset. I watched him ask the name of every nurse, every oncologist, every pain management specialist, every pharmacist, every physical therapist that delivered him care. I heard him say, thank you, and I appreciate you, acknowledging each one of them right up until he could barely speak, creating a ripple effect moment for each of them, because they would go home after long, difficult days knowing that they mattered to somebody else, carrying that energy into the patients they cared for and the work they did the next day. Now, you all know better than anybody that healthcare is not delivered by one person. It is delivered by a team. And some of those team members sat by Markham's bedside for hours, and others he never met, but none were less important. The pharmacists who managed his medications, who prepared and managed his TPN, gave our family something we will always be grateful for: more time. We all have the capacity to create ripple effect moments for the people around us. And it doesn't require extraordinary circumstances. It just requires that we show our humanity in the ordinary ones. So my postcard today is to all of you, to simply say thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the moments you will never get credit for. And thank you for the ripple effects families like mine will never forget. I'm Chris Rollins. Thank you so much for having me. Remember, the ripple starts with you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.